Hi, Holly.
Hi, how are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm great, thank you.
Thank you for joining us today. We're on Perfect Child and we're with Holly Marie today. Holly, I'm going to start with your bio.
Okay.
All right. Holly Marie is a practicing hypnotherapist and shamanic practitioner for over 13 years using ancient, multidimensional clearing techniques, modern knowledge, and intuition to help people see deep into their subconscious and beyond. The system Holly has developed allows her clients to easily work through hidden beliefs, programs, and trauma that are held on a cellular level. When these energy imprints are cleared, true empowerment and emotional freedom take place. Many of her clients seek Holly for deep-rooted traumas that need to be cleared through the DNA, inner child work, soul retrievals, forgiveness, and emotional clearing to free themselves of mental slavery. Wow. Okay, for me, I'm like, wow, but for some people, they might be just like, that's French.
Right? You know what I just realized is not on there is ancestral healing. I do a lot of that as well.
Do you?
Yeah.
I mean, let's talk about emotional freedom for a little bit.
Okay.
What does that mean?
So it means coming to a place. I mean, I don't think if we're ever still going to be encapsulated in this earth, I'm not sure if we're quite going to be fully ascended, right? And in complete mastery, but is what that means is emotional freedom is coming to a place where you're not triggered. It's where you're no longer triggered, or if you are triggered, you can process through it really quickly. So for instance, I work with a lot of people who have anxiety, and anxiety is just a blanket statement. It's not even, it's a nervous reaction to a trauma that happened in your past. It's just a reaction in your body. That's all it is. So if you can catch that trigger before you go into full-blown anxiety, that's what emotional freedom is. So I teach a lot of techniques to my clients to be able to catch that trigger and then work on it. Also, while bringing in that soul piece, or really healing that trauma, looking at it from a different perspective, so they just don't get bothered by the same situation anymore.
So they are recognizing when they get triggered and how.
Yes.
And they can implement the tools.
Yes.
Okay, so let me ask you, do you find that, because I'm hearing a lot of physical pain is from trauma, emotional trauma that we're not cognizant of. So
Correct.
are you finding that the work that you do, then you're able to help people to recognize the emotional trauma, turn it around, thereby reversing their chronic condition, and then better able to recognize when they're being triggered and then stopping it?
Yes. And it sounds a little convoluted, right? Because is how you just explained it is someone's having physical pain, we track it back to the emotion, we help heal and clear that emotion on the energetic level. So now they recognize it, but because our body is so amazing and complex, we've already created a neural pathway that's going to keep repeating the same message, right? Where literally that neural pathway literally creates our holographic reality. So then we have to deprogram that neural pathway. So a lot of times I'll get my clients into a deep state of hypnosis to literally override that neural pathway.
Oh, wonderful. So it's even subconscious work. So then the body then creates a new memory as
Absolutely.
to how to deal with future conflicts, so to say.
Yes. Or future resolution.
Yes. Okay. Yes. Better language. How do people know to come to you?
So I'm always, I'll go to a marketing conference or, you know, a marketing class or something. And people always ask me for years, what is your niche? And for years, I have not been able to find my niche. I am usually, you know, because people are like, oh, you work with single moms from age 30 to 40, or you work with budding entrepreneurs. It's none of that. I usually work with people who have run up against the wall because nothing is working for them. Nothing is working for them anymore. Their doctors can't help them. They're going to traditional therapy week after week after week, spending thousands of dollars. And so they finally, I like to joke around, they finally call the crazy lady, right? And they come in for the shamanic healing. And I will tell you that the method that I use is from the Cacao and the Four Winds traditions of Peru. And I'm literally using a pendulum on the energy field to see where the energy's stuck. And then they're releasing it through breath work. And there is something that happens within that transition that creates a really, really solid change for that person. So I'm working with people all over the board. I guess the niche is that they're not getting any relief from traditional therapy.
Right. Yeah, it would be nice if people would recognize that before they hit that wall, you know, because sometimes it gets a little bit too far.
Well, especially, and I'm not going to apologize for saying this, and I don't feel bad about it. That's my motto for 2022. I'm not sorry. You know, people go in to their doctor for anxiety or tension headaches or upset stomachs, and they get put on pills, and one pill leads to another pill. And most antidepressants or antipsychotics have a lot of fluoride in them. So it's just numbing down their pineal gland. They're not getting any help. But the whole time, this program is running in the subconscious, vibrating through every cell that they have. And it's literally shifting whatever the issue is into something else. Because energy never transfers or transmute 100%. You need to shift it. You need to shift that energy into a different pathway.
So after hearing what you just said, I would think that your niche is that is the diagnosis, then you need to call up Holly.
Do you know how fast I would be shut down?
I mean, this is just me and you talking. But if I'm out and somebody is like, well, I've been on these drugs forever, blah, blah. Oh, well, then you should call my friend Holly, because that's literally it. If you're finding yourself consistently using something outside of yourself that also has terrible side effects to address one small thing, let's get to the bottom of it and quit it.
You just hit the nail on the head. When you're using something outside of yourself, that includes, and here's another really unpopular thing that I like, is that includes psychics, spirit guides. You know, if you're not sourcing directly from source itself, there's other negative influence that can get in and act as imposters to really play into the ego mind and exasperate, you know, your healing or magnify these traumas and your behavior. And I mean, that's a whole nother thing when we get into the fourth dimension, and we can go there, but getting into the fourth dimension and the entities and the archons and the fourth dimensional spiritual war, but it all literally starts right here, right now. How are we making it through the day? Because that vibration is going to ripple into our multidimensional bodies.
Yeah. And I think I'm finding, you know, just like when you and I were talking previously, and I said, do people come to you regularly? And, you know, your response was not really, because that's the whole thing. Like, you need to tap into your own intuition and be able to heal yourself.
Exactly.
Like you go to others to get the tools, or to get maybe like a Band-Aid here and there to support because something doesn't feel good. But I would think that you really shouldn't need to go to see anybody regularly for an extended amount of time, like over years.
I agree. I agree. I think it's the biggest scam in history. I do beg my clients to come back, like, every 8 months to a year, because the life just happens. And it's great to always just get a clearing, right? But I literally have people calling me going, how many times do I have to come in? And I'm like, well, 1 to 3, 1 to 3, I like to do a 3-pack, but if I can't get you up and out, I didn't do a good job.
Yeah.
Literally, I didn't do a good job. So it's really fun because when people come in for a session, I'm hearing their entire life story and I'm weaving it together, right? Finding the emotions. I'm mirroring back to them what they told me. When we really get into the thick of it and we jump into past lives and, jump into some really deep, more esoteric stuff. Sometimes I'll take the lead a little bit, but even with the soul retrieval, you are finding your soul piece. You are seeing your past life. It's you. Very rarely do I have to jump in.
Okay.
I'm leading the journey. I am leading them on the journey, but it's up to them to retrieve what they need to.
Okay. Now, everything that we've been talking about is in a space that we're both in, right? We've walked the journey. We're on our journey. We're on the path, and we know the language. What about people who have no clue? They don't believe in any of this stuff. You're talking about past lives. They're like, whatever. You don't even know what you're talking about. Past lives don't exist. Blah blah blah. This person that comes in that has no, sort of knowledge about things like that or spirituality, would this shamanic healing work for them? Would you be able to get them to a place?
Well, the first thing, because I also teach the shamanic wheel, the first thing that we teach is all healing is self-healing. So if you don't want to be healed, I can't help you. But here's the thing. So because I actually work with a lot of professionals, dentists, nurses, you name it, engineers. So I do work with a lot of professionals, and the biggest thing that I can give somebody is that inner child healing. So hands down, whether you believe in past lives or not, that's on the back burner. If you're having an issue, guaranteed I'm gonna track it back. I'm gonna track it back. So I use the energy centers or the chakra system as a timeline. So when someone's like, I'm feeling abandoned, or, my boss just abandoned me. He just gave me the pink slip. I feel abandoned. Oh, great. Jump on the table. I'm going to track it back usually between the ages of 1 and 7 in the root chakra, or 8 and 15 in the sacral chakra. And then I'll just tell the client they're in an altered state of consciousness. And I'll be like, when between 1 and 7, let's say, did you feel abandoned? And it's so funny because this memory will just surface up and they're always like, I never thought about that. I forgot that happened, right? So the conscious mind forgets, but the subconscious just keeps like nagging at you, right? And it's going to show up in all aspects of your life until you heal it.
That is so interesting that things happen that are impressionable between 1 and 7 and 8 and 15, which totally makes sense. Right?
Oh, absolutely.
8 and 15 is like those sort of early teen years, right? Where you're finding yourself and getting into conflicts with your parents or whatever. And that could feel very jarring.
Absolutely. Can I give a great example?
Of course.
Okay, so this was years ago. I had this gentleman come into me and see me, and he was an ex-cop. And then from being a retired cop, he went on, this was in a whole different state. He went on to be the emergency city planner, where I didn't even know the cities had one. So they bring in all the big emergency planning, works with FEMA. And so anyway, it's like, that's really interesting. You are a cop, now you're doing emergency city planning. What's the deal? Well, I don't feel safe. Okay, Boom, I got him on the table. We tracked it back between 1 and 7. When he was 3 years old, his 5-year-old sister locked him out of the house. And it created an imprint of feeling unsafe that completely shoved him into this whole career of holding down safety, right?
Oh my
It's
God.
so weird.
That's so amazing.
Right?
Yes. Now, speaking of your client being a male, when we were speaking earlier, you had said a lot of your clients are males.
Yeah, isn't that interesting? I do. I work with a lot of men. I think because I'm a straight shooter, I think that's what it boils down to. I'm easy to talk to.
Yeah.
But I work with a lot of men. I work with a lot of vets. I work like veterans.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm working with men that you wouldn't suspect to come into my office.
Yeah.
It's very, I mean, you know, men in trucks, men with big heavy duty jobs and tattoos and guns.
They're not like the spiritual yoga guys.
Yes, they come in for the work, and it's amazing. It's so amazing because, and I have so much respect for them. I have so much respect that they trust me to be a part of their journey. And they come in and they're so cool and they lay it all out on the table. They're super honest. They're vulnerable with me. We do the clearing, and they usually get great power animals like horses for independence and eagles. And they charge through the work. It's super fantastic and amazing to see these men going there.
And when you say they charge through the work, is that the work that's being done in the session with you, the one session?
Yes.
Or is it an extended? Oh, it's just the one session. How long is the session?
My sessions run 2 to 2.5 hours.
Okay.
I used to try to get them in an hour, and that's where you get into that point where you have to keep coming back over and over and over again, because I can tell you, it's like once that 60 minutes hits and I'm still hearing your story, there's almost like a shift, like, oh, we're still here. You didn't kick me out. The clock didn't go off, right? You're not screaming at me for payment. Like, I can relax, and now I'm really going to open up. So that's when I get them on the table.
Mm-hmm.
And it's great. And
Oh,
so we go through this whole shamanic journey, and then I'm repeating, you know, their story in a way, and getting them in this really altered state of regression, so the brain waves can move into a higher state where the neural pathway actually changes.
that's so exciting. I hear your description and I'm like, oh, that sounds so much fun. I want to do it too. But I really don't think that I have any traumas. I've been doing a lot of work for a long time. But,
Absolutely.
you know, you never know.
Well, okay. I had another woman come in, and she's like, I don't want to go into my trauma. And I'm like, that's fine. So
Bye.
we did anyway, it came up. But you can do, the cool thing about shamanic healing is that you don't have to do shamanic healing. You can go on a shamanic journey. You can just go on a journey. You can go to the underworld and get a power animal. You can go to the upper world and meet Pachacuti, that's the creator in the crystal world. So in my tradition, like the Four Winds or Cacao tradition, we work with the archetypes within the chakra system. So the root is Sachamama, the serpent, and she allows you to shed your stories like she sheds her skin. And so you're shedding all these old stories, right? Then you move into the second, and it's Atarango or Jaguar. And she comes in and she mulches that heavy energy, right? So this is more the emotional. The root is the physical. Jaguar, Atarango is the emotional. You move into Saraquente, the solar plexus, hummingbird Saraquente. And she's mystical. And she brings you the sweetness of life and just the opportunities, and it's a phenomenal direction. She represents the north in the medicine wheel, and that's where we really jump into the past lives and all the fun mystical stuff. Then you move up to Kuntur Apuchin, the heart, eagle condor. And so they say that the eagle is the mind. And are you having fun? Like, the eagle,
so much fun.
the eagle is the mind and the condor is the heart. And the eagle is northern hemisphere, condor southern. So you're bringing that unified field of consciousness, which brings the heart and the head connection. So then we move into Waskar, the throat. Waskar is the keeper of the underworld, and he allows us to move into the past lives. And so is what I really like about this modality of the past lives is we're finding the contract to break. We're rewriting that karmatic contract because it imprints in the RNA and it just radio signals out life after life. So we're literally changing that. And then we move into Quetzalcoatl, the waking mind. Like right now we're creating this amazing experience in the waking world, right? And then Pachacuti is the creator, or crown Pachacuti. And then the Wiracocha, the living sun. So when you're actually doing like a shamanic healing, you've got your living sun up here, you open it up, you open it over the person, and then you close it up. And I used to think it was total bull, right? Like when I was taking the class, when I was in my first medicine wheel, I'm like, that's so stupid. And then I questioned everything.
Of course, as we all should.
I wasn't buying any of this, right? I was like, this is the biggest
bunch of baloney.
Yeah, ever. I'm like, no, I'm never doing this in my life. Now I'm like, come on in, let me help you. But so it was funny because, we have to do our exercise. I think we're in the first direction, the south, and we open our Wiracocha and we put it around us. Well, I forgot to close my Wiracocha and I went on a bike ride because I was like too cool to be spiritual. So I was just going to go on a bike ride after. And I'm riding down the road and I'm like, do I have a plastic bag attached to my helmet? Like, what is happening up here?
Yes.
Right? Like it felt something was going on. And I was like, oh, I forgot to close my Wiracocha. So I stopped on the sidewalk and I stuck it all back up and it was fine. But you could literally feel the energy like a plastic bag or something.
Cool.
Wow.
Okay, so that moves us into you teach this for winds modality.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Is that in a group? Is it one-on-one?
It's in a group. I'm teaching my third medicine wheel right now. And we are just about to go into the north direction, which is Serracuente hummingbird. We've already completed the south and the west. So we'll go into the north, we'll complete in the east. And then I'm going to start my next medicine wheel in March. And I keep it small. When I learned, we had like 16 to 20 people, which is still fairly small. I like to keep mine really small and intimate. So I want 6 to 8 people. That's it.
Perfect. I think that's perfect because then more people get a chance to ask questions and really dive deep and get answers.
That's the thing is not only are you learning how to do this, you're also going through your own personal transformation. And if I can help somebody go as deep as they can, why not come out with extra transformation so you can share this work from a better state?
Yeah. How long are the workshops?
So we meet every other month, one weekend, Friday to Sunday. So my north direction is January 7th to 9th, I think. And then we'll complete the wheel in March. So it's 8 months, but we only meet every other month.
So it's actually 4 months, but it takes course over 8 months. Like you're actually meeting.
Yes, but you have stuff to do in between time. Oh,
for sure. For sure.
And I help people create a mesa. I meant to bring my mesa, but I forgot it last night. I did this crazy session and it zonked me. Because the woman, was having, I wanted to make sure she was good for Christmas. And I just took her so deep. I was so zonked after, it was nuts. But so in my tradition, as you're going through the medicine wheel, you create a healing bundle. And so it's filled with stones, which we call kuyas. That's the proper term, a kuya. And so each direction you do these practicums to program these kuyas, these stones, and that's how you create your medicine bundle. So then in a healing, you can use You know, a client will pick a stone, it will help you, guide you, because the stone is programmed with something. So
Oh my goodness.
it's
That sounds really incredible.
it's you know what it is, and I do this work because it saved my life. That's why I do this work.
Okay, because you experienced it and then you learned it yourself because it saved your life. You wanted to bring it to others.
Yes.
Mhm.
This, I mean, literally, I grew up from the get-go. I was really sick all the time. I was so sick. And then I suffered so badly from depression. And I was on, you know, like Prozac, and nothing was helping. And I was really, really desperate. And I walked into this little massage place in California one day where I lived, and I just said, I need help. And they're like, well, go see a shaman. And I had never even heard the word before. I grew up in a Christian church. I didn't know what that was. I never even heard that word before. And I just put on my best poker face and I'm like, that's a great idea. Sure. Right. I didn't know. And I called this lady and it was awful. You know, she like did this illumination process. She didn't explain anything. And she's like, I pulled all this stuff out of you and here's your power animal. And she burned some sage and shook a rattle and sent me on my way. And I was really upset because she was really expensive. But ironically, a couple months later, I'm like, I have to go see that lady again, even though it didn't work. Even though it didn't work, I have to go see her again. Because it's what I didn't understand is it was literally working on unseen levels.
Yes, right.
And so I don't have a prescription in the house. I don't have stomach issues anymore. I don't have depression, right? This changes, but you have to remember too, I've gone through the medicine wheel. I'm on my
Several times.
7 times, because I learned it, I assisted in it, now I'm teaching it. So I've done a lot of work, just like you have, right? The work comes in many different modalities.
Absolutely. There's teachers everywhere.
Yes.
Right.
Especially our kids.
Oh my God. Like so much so. It's crazy. I'm always like, just every day I'm baffled by how much work we do because of our kids.
Right.
They're literally our lifesavers.
Yes, I know. I know.
Yeah. Yeah. They're gifts.
In doing this work, right? And the more, because I don't know where everybody else is on their journey, and everybody's journey is sacred and unique to them. But I know for us that our belief systems pretty much run on the same track. So then we have to bring in this whole nother level of awareness, right? Of what's going on in the world and what can go on in the world, and how do we protect our kids without being a helicopter parent, right? It's
Right.
this whole play.
And like different styles for different ages. You know what I mean? Like Greg, my husband, obviously, usually follows my lead. And so, you know, when Dylan was younger, it was very like, this is what she's eating, blah, 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 right? But now that she's like almost 13, I'm fine with whatever she does. Oh, you're going to eat an entire bag of candy? Go right ahead. I don't really care. Because I've already set that, like, I've already set her gut, so to say. And I also know that like on a given day, she's generally pretty healthy because I make sure that whatever we have access to, she's eating. But if she's going to eat like an entire bowl of ice cream or whatever, something, I'm not as strict. And so Greg's like, oh, we used to be more strict about that. I'm like, yeah, I don't care anymore because she's a teenager and she's going to want to make her own decisions. And it's our job to let them do whatever they want sometimes, unless it gets out of control.
Right. I totally agree. And for my son, it's like, unfortunately, he goes on the sweeter end, which bothers me, but he's really good about monitoring it.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, you know what? Okay, fine. Like if you're going to monitor yourself, great.
And I believe that as parents, we've instilled in them a little bit of intuition, right? They'd have their own intuition and they know how to tap into it. I feel like if maybe if Phoenix is eating a lot of sugar, his body is craving it for some reason.
Maybe. I don't know.
Oh,
I
I
just,
think sugar's not all that bad. Just high fructose corn syrup, right? I don't know.
oh gosh, no corn syrup. Absolutely not. Right. So that's the thing. So I do a lot of baking. Because I know I bake gluten-free, and I would rather have him eat what I made
Yeah.
than eat something out of a package.
Right. Of course.
Yeah, there's sugar in it, but it's organic.
Better for you.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So let's talk a little bit about negative programming.
Oh, where do you want to go?
Does it just continue to build up? How do we break it? Just by seeing you and,
So I like to think of everything in the terms of fractals.
Okay.
So I don't know if you follow Nassim Haramein or Greg Braden. Oh, you're gonna love them because they're neuroscience based, right? They're scientists. And so the biggest thing for me is when I'm doing my work and it's getting all weird and crazy, and then I hear some quantum physicist explain what just happened, I'm like, okay, I'm not crazy, this is real. So the negative programming, it always starts with that younger child. And half of us are walking around in a state of hypnosis. And one of my favorite things is Project Mockingbird, how we're told the same thing over and over and over. Just like a lot of children, unfortunately, are told by parents or teachers that they can't do something. That's a negative program because it becomes the belief.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so then you literally program your reality to fail. And if you don't fail, you self-sabotage. Like either way, you're either going to fail or self-sabotage because you have to follow what you were told because you believed it.
Yes.
I know it's kind of weird for some people to understand that you're literally stuck in this loop.
Mm-hmm. And even if your life seems like it's going pretty well, there could have been some negative programming still. Is that correct?
Yes. And so a lot of times if your life is going great, which it should be going great, right? We all should be having a great life. So your life might be not yours. I always like to use a third party example. So Pat's life may be going amazing. She's got a great marriage. Her kids are great. House is great. Job's great. But she suffers from these tension headaches. But her neck's fine. And she got a massage and she goes to the chiropractor and everything's fine, but she still suffers from these headaches. So there's an emotion behind those headaches. So once you clear that emotion, right, because the shamans have a belief that 99% of our ailments are emotionally based. And this leads me to the ancestors. So when people come in and they love to just declare this like a badge of honor, like we have hereditary heart disease. And it's like, no, that's terrible, right? It just runs in our family. So I will always go back to the ancestors and see where the heart was broken. Because the heart disease isn't a disease, it's a dis-ease in the heart. So we'll go back, let the ancestors come in and show us where the heart was broken, then we'll be able to shift that on an emotional level and hopefully clear that going down the family line.
Right. And let's talk about programming, right? They say, oh, you have heart disease that runs in your family. Then you basically create that program for yourself and
Right.
You'll continue to carry that on throughout your ancestry because you believe it, you manifest it, and then you pass it on to the younger generation and they manifest.
Yes, exactly. The same thing with alcoholism, depression. Yes, absolutely. Because with epigenetics, we're literally turning on and off that gene with our thoughts. I mean, of course, there's environmental factors and everything, but we're literally turning that on and off with our thoughts, right?
And this is where we get into that touchy subject of not wanting to look at ourselves, because when you can say that we have it runs in our family, that's that outer factor that we can't do anything about. We're just
Right.
gonna
Right. So that's, I mean, it is outside of us, but it's within us because it's our DNA too. So how do you address it? Or the RNA, right? How do you address it? And it is really facing that. And then I think for the hard part though, is like you can get energy healing and energy clearing and everything's great, but your thoughts will literally reverse all of that.
Mhm.
So that's why I think it's really important, even in the shamanic, to bring in the hypnosis. Because
To
hypnosis
help
works.
you, right?
Yes,
Right.
it's a program.
Mhm.
Hypnosis is a program. Just like when we're told something over and over, we
Yep.
can create that symptom,
Mhm.
just like women can create a false pregnancy. So
Mhm.
if we're being told something by a TV or a popular news channel over and over, we can literally create that symptom.
Okay, so now talking about that, let's ship really fast. So Joe Dispenza, you know him, right? So he healed his own back because his mind was super strong. Okay.
Yes.
So as a person, oftentimes we will create our own blockages because it's hard for us to really focus. So if we wanted to do the same thing, could we go to see you or see a hypnotherapist that could create that mind pattern so that we actually could heal ourselves without
Yes.
blocking?
Okay, so Joe Dispenza also does stuff with Greg Braden and Nassim Haramein.
Oh,
They're like kind of a trio. So
okay.
yes, absolutely. So now here's the thing with hypnosis though. So a lot of people will come in to see me for weight loss or sugar addiction, and they'll be like, hey, I went to hypnosis like 10 years ago and it was amazing. And I stopped drinking soda, but then I XYZ, right?
Mhm.
Whatever. So we have to be really careful when we change that mind pattern, that we're not just projecting that energy into another bad
Exactly.
habit,
Yep.
right?
Right.
So like people like Joe Dispenza, it's like he talks about that emotional frequency, and then you have to have a new goal, right? You have to literally, instead of just not eating sugar and letting it show up somewhere else, like, oh, I'm going to take up smoking now, right?
Mhm.
We have to literally put that into a positive thing. Like instead of eating sugar, I'm going to exercise more.
Right.
And then that's how we shift. And then I feel like our body is a supercomputer, just releasing all these chemicals based on our thoughts, from our hormones to cortisol, dopamine, everything, right? So then we're going to traject that into what benefits us. But yeah, absolutely. Like Joe Dispenza, he is changing the mindset. Like our mind is so powerful. And I always tell people, if you can bend a spoon with your mind, like how they do in colleges, you know how you bend a spoon with your mind?
I can't fathom it.
Have you heard that before? Like they'll take psychologists into colleges and the students will bend a spoon. If
Yeah.
you can do that with your mind, what
Mind
can you
is
do with your body?
powerful. Oh my gosh, the mind is so powerful. That is the one thing that I want them to teach in all schools.
Right.
That's so important, so much more important than arithmetic and spelling words.
I know.
Oh gosh. Yeah. Mm.
But I feel like that's the big downfall, is we're so focused on
Living the dream,
just
acquiring.
focused on like, well, for when I was a kid, I'm going to assume we're about the same age. When I was a kid, cancer was almost a bad word. It wasn't a bad word, but it was like, you didn't say that word, that nobody had cancer. And now as they started to program us, especially with that beautiful pink ribbon, that pink ribbon is a sigil. That is a sigil. That pink ribbon has created so much more breast cancer than we put it on our water bottles. Talk about negative programming. You put
Oh
the
my gosh.
pink ribbon on a water bottle. Water is a conduit. You see the pink ribbon, breast cancer, and then you chug a lug.
Whoa. That just, oh my gosh.
Water's
Blew up my mind.
Water is a
Because you can change the structure of water just by
Yes.
writing. Oh my word.
Yes. So
That's
like
cool.
Dr. Emoto, right? You got the
Yeah.
rice or the water crystals, love, hate, thank you.
Mhm,
I'm gonna kill
mhm.
myself, whatever. Let's just put a pink ribbon right here
Oh my word.
and see what happens, right?
Yes.
I mean, they just make up anything and people run with it.
Yeah.
Because if you read the declassified CIA documents on consciousness, not that we all have time to do that, but you put an idea out there like restless leg syndrome. Everybody's got restless legs.
Everybody's got it.
I know. It's like that just
so
came out of
crazy.
nowhere.
Yeah, I remember I had a best friend when I was younger that anytime I mentioned that I was feeling something or craving something, she had the same thing. I'm just like, how can that be? But of course, we're totally tethered. Our minds are so strong. This is why healing comes in so many different ways.
Here's
Go.
here's another really good one that I just love. I love empaths. I love them. I love empaths, man. My favorite thing to say to an empath is like, if you're picking up on everybody's feelings, like sadness, fear, depression, you can't go out of the house because you can't go to the mall because you're going to pick up on everyone's trauma. Like, why can't you pick up on their happiness and their joy and their bliss and their gratitude and compassion? Oh, they get mad. And it's because they're so wounded that they're only catching that frequency.
Mm-hmm. They have to do their own work.
Yes. Yes.
You got to do your own work. That's what it all comes down to.
And I'm not sitting here just being like, oh, don't be an empath, like you're weak.
No.
I have my own work to do too. I mean, trust me, I have been sitting here for 2 years now saying I'm going to put an ad in the local magazine. I finally went into it took me 2 years because I'm not a good advertiser and I don't like putting myself out there. Right? So 2 years I battled with it.
Do I not?
Yes. And then I put up a ton of excuses like I can't afford it. What if it doesn't work? Like I'm on my path too.
All day long. We're all on our paths and it's just the joy in the journey, because when you're on that path, it's freeing, right? Every time we break a pattern, it's having that like awareness of where, oh, I'm doing that again. And I feel really good because I didn't do that.
Okay, breaking the pattern. That is so important that you just said that. That's what I really try to get people to do, is just break that pattern.
Yeah, it takes work. It really takes a lot of work, and it takes a lot of consciousness. It is like 24/7, 365, all day long thing. You just can't let up.
No, I'm talking about, yes, right? But to even get to that level of awareness, if you can just break one thing, just do one thing different,
yes,
it's gonna throw your brain.
Yes. Joe Dispenza talks about that, right? In his book, Becoming Supernatural, is that the name of the book? Where he says there was a woman that he worked with, and she literally would take different routes to work every day to break that pattern, to break habits. And so I do the same thing. Like, okay, I usually brush my teeth here. I'm going to go here.
Yes.
That's all it takes. Just that one thing. And then just do it every single day, a different thing.
Yes. Yes. And I just heard this hearsay that magicians do the same thing. The magicians do that. Like they'll start putting their belt on the other way, or they'll start putting, like if they always put their right leg into the pants, they'll make it a point to do the left leg.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I don't know much about magicians, but I thought that was really weird to equate the two, right?
Yeah. I'm going to have to bring one on and ask him.
Do you know?
What?
Do you know any?
I used to know one, but now I don't. It was like back in Pittsburgh, I knew one, and back in New York, I knew one. Now I don't know one. I'll find one. Now I just manifested up. We'll probably meet one someday soon.
Right? Yeah, absolutely. Right? Because you just put it out there.
Yes. Now, how do people find out about your courses?
I just put them up on my website,
They should subscribe.
hollymariesoulcoaching.com. What?
They should subscribe.
They should subscribe.
Okay.
I don't think I put out a newsletter for a very long time, but you know, a lot of people go on my website, they just check it out. Most of my courses though, like the medicine wheel, is pretty much word of mouth.
Okay.
And then when I do ceremony, because I do despacho ceremonies, the prayer ceremony, the cacao ceremony, there is so much. I mean, the complexity of the shamanic work is just, it just goes and goes and goes. So I do those, and I usually just sort of send out a group text. So if anybody's local and interested, I would love to have them join.
Okay, so I would advise that you start getting on Instagram and post those on Instagram. And maybe just write a quick newsletter every so often when you're doing these things so you can reach more people. Okay.
But then I'd have to put myself out there and I'd feel vulnerable and rejected.
Oh, I know. You will tell me when you're doing it, and I'll put it on Perfect Child and put a newsletter out for you.
Oh,
that's how we work around here.
I know, right?
Yes. So let's do that. Let's plan on doing that.
Okay, I'll take it.
And then because shamanic work is so deep and just so vast, we will have to schedule more interviews so we can dive into other aspects.
I like that. I really like to get into the interdimensional aspects of things. It's so fascinating, especially when we start getting into the past lives, and it's such an unraveling mystery that you can just, it's so fascinating. And then to just see like these past lives begin to loop out and play out now, it never gets boring.
I can't imagine that it gets boring. That's so incredible. So we could actually do another talk on the interdimensional work.
Yeah, and just the archetypes, and how do the archetypes serve you? And we could do one on cacao. Like, what are the benefits of cacao? Did you know that real cacao, like the actual real medicine of chocolate, the pure form, has theobromine in it, which is a cavity fighter?
A cavity fighter.
Isn't that weird?
That's fantastic.
And it's got the joy and bliss molecule. So that's why you give chocolate. That's why guys give girls chocolate on Valentine's Day, because all of a sudden the girl thinks they're in love. But surprise, it's just the chocolate.
I love chocolate.
Oh, I do too.
But only dark chocolate.
Did you know that Hershey's doesn't even have cocoa in its chocolate?
It doesn't?
Nope.
What does it have?
I don't know.
I'm going to go look at their ingredients.
There's on the Hershey bar, there's no cocoa in it.
I'm not surprised. It doesn't taste very good.
I'd like to tell you what's in it, but it probably wouldn't go over too well. I'll tell you later.
Okay. You tell me what's on it, and I'm going to put it in my next newsletter because it's important that people know these things.
Well, it's just a speculation.
Okay. Then I won't put it on.
But I'll tell you later what I think's in it.
Okay, good. Since I'm seeing you in half an hour anyways.
Yes, we are. Yes.
All right. So Holly, that was a fantastic, informative interview. And
this was a lot of fun.
Right?
This was really fun. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, I'll see you later.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.